Hey guys, you've heard of the Young Turks podcast because you're listening to it right now. But make sure that you subscribe and give it a 5-star rating if you like it. Thank you for listening. All right, welcome to the Young Turks. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur. We've got a varied, fun, awesome lineup of hosts for you guys today, but I'm starting the first segment by myself, going old school. I got a Tucker Carlson story for you. In fact, 2 of them right in the beginning, but afterwards we will also talk about whether Fox News now is devastated by those advertiser boycotts or not. So that's a little bit later in the program. Also a little bit later in the program, one of the most hilarious right-wing conspiracies that has blown up on the perpetrator of that conspiracy. A couple of awful Republican plans, lots of show to get to here, guys. And in the third hour of the Young Turks, we now do interviews, and we have the son of the founder of the National Enquirer. Huh, interesting. Okay, and of course, post game after that, that's the last half hour for members. And then speaking of members, get the live video version of Old School and get the whole show. They're the only ones that get the whole show. That's also later tonight. So tyt.com/join to become a member of the Young Turks, and tyt.com/trial if you want to try it for a week free. Don't miss any portion of this program. It's too fun, okay? Now, speaking of, well, I'm not putting this in the category of fun, but there is a fun twist here in the second portion of the story. Anyways, let's go over here and do Tucker. Tucker Carlson, a little bit of trouble because of some of the things he has said, including horrible things he said. And he now has the most popular show on Fox News. Fox News is so far standing behind him. And instead of apologizing for some of those comments, which I will read some of them to you in a minute, Tucker Carlson has decided that he is going to double down and he's going to fight back. So he did a lot of that last night, including, unfortunately, more bigotry. So I'm going to show and explain that to you. But first, of course, conservatives are the real victims. So let's show you that.
This is what an authoritarian society looks like. It's a place where the group in charge will tolerate no criticism at all. That's what we're becoming. It was only a matter of time before they came for Fox News.
Yes, it's almost as if we're the right wing. No, you guys come for people, right? And so, anyways, it makes it seem like Tucker Carlson didn't do anything, and that these people that are coming after him are so incredibly unfair. Well, in essence, what Media Matters has done is just quote you. And I've been involved in controversies before. I'm sure I'll be involved in controversies later as well, where people quote me. And then so you have to decide, do you stand by those old quotes or don't you? In my case, it's easy because I used to be a Republican and I'm not anymore. So there's some things I have not changed my mind on, but plenty of things that I have. So I'm straightforward about it. But Tucker Carlson does not address any of those horrible quotes, and he's so far refused to apologize for any of them. And he keeps framing it as, I will not bow down to the left wing. I will not apologize to Media Matters that exposed my own quotes, okay? But it's not about that. Nobody's asking you to apologize to Media Matters. They're asking you, do you still believe that you should refer to gay people with the F word as an example? Here, just so you guys know, it's not to keep rubbing it in. If a lot of people just watch this video, they haven't watched our old shows or seen any other context. So let me show you some of the quotes that got him in trouble. There's a lot more, but these are some of the highlights. He once said, she seems extremely C-word with a E at the end. I don't know how else to describe that in a way that does not use the word. Anyway, referring to a woman, he says she just does seem a little C-word. I just wanted to give her the spanking she so desperately needs. And then he went on to say, white men have, they're contributed some, I would say, like creating civilization and stuff. I know, only white guys. I don't know why anybody would accuse him of racism or bigotry. He still hasn't been able to figure it out. But if you're still left confused, then we can move on to this. Iraq is a crappy place filled with a bunch of, semi-literate primitive monkeys. That's why it wasn't worth invading. Well, I do like the last half of the sentence, we shouldn't have invaded, but the first half is deeply problematic. So Tucker, it's a super fair question. Do you believe Iraqis are monkeys or don't you? It's not about apologizing to Media Matters or the Southern Poverty Law Center. Do you stand by those comments or don't you? It's actually, You don't have to go through every comment, and you could say, hey, when he said he was Murdoch's bitch, for example, he was clearly joking. Now, I think that so there's a little bit of reality mixed into that, but he was joking. So you don't have to go line by line, but some of these are outrageous. So it's not unfair to ask. But yet he, again, throughout the entire segment was like, me, poor me, the victim. Okay, and then conservatives love that. That's why they do things like War on Christmas, etc. They love being the victims. I've got one more for you guys. He said, well, I like you too, and I mean that. You always say, I mean that in a non-F way, but I actually mean it in a completely F way. And referring to gay Americans with the F word. Okay. By the way, it's super easy to say, hey, I was joking around, that was stupid, I shouldn't have done that, blah, blah, blah. No, won't even do that. So if you don't do that, then I guess you stand by it. So, but it's about to get worse. So let's keep watching his over-the-top counterattack.
Well, Brian Stelter has since left the New York Times. He's now the House eunuch at CNN, announcing proclamations from his tiny king, Jeff Zucker. He takes his talking points, though, still from Media Matters. Here's Zucker's puppet.
Yeah, no, that's unacceptable. So these are the people who claim to be outraged by Ilhan Omar. That is a deeply anti-Semitic trope that goes back in history a long time of the Jews being puppet masters. Jeff Zucker is a Jewish American. So here, let's show you, obviously a screen capture of what you just saw there in the video. So this is Brian Stelter being controlled as a puppet by Jeff Zucker. And then let's go to posters from Germany. In 1944 and 1942, you see the puppet master controlling his puppet on the right. And then also in 1942, Jewish puppet master. So no, that's a super clear anti-Semitic trope, super clear. So obviously later on he brought on Dave Rubin to cover him on both the Jewish and the gay angle. So we're, I guess, all even. No, we're not. And remember what Tucker Carlson says is in the prompter. We don't have prompters here. They do. They write out the script. The producers look at it. And in a situation this sensitive, likely the executives looked at it. So everyone signed off on putting this into the script. Then they had graphic artists work on that. No one in the building at Fox News knew that that was a deeply anti-Semitic trope. Preposterous. So while saying like, I have nothing to apologize for, people accusing me of bigotry, it's outrageous. Now let me show you how the Jew's a puppet master. Jesus Christ, man. Okay, so we're not done yet. He's got more about how the left wing is going to apparently use guns to arrest the right wing. I mean, this kind of demagoguery is insanity. Okay, let him explain though, go ahead.
But there's an ominous undertone to all of this. Don Lemon doesn't have the power to have you arrested. Dana Nessel does. Nessel is the Attorney General of Michigan. She's created a special hate crime unit whose charter is to investigate any organization identified as a hate group by the SPLC. This is what weaponized politics looks like. Criticize the people in charge and the SPLC will sick men with guns on you. It's terrifying.
No, none of that is right. Let me break it down for you guys. And in a second, you're gonna see actually sicking people with guns on you in a great moment of irony. But first, let me explain. Criminal law enforcement would track hate groups in case they are going to commit violent crimes. They're not tracking them for saying the wrong things. That you have First Amendment right to say anything you like. Tucker Carlson has a right to say the things that he said. No one's going to arrest him for that. So he's trying to turn it so you think, the audience thinks, oh my God, they're gonna come for me. I got to help defend Tucker Carlson and the tens of millions of dollars he makes at Fox News for his free speech because I hear people with guns are gonna come after me if I say the wrong thing. Not remotely true. They're investigating groups and they're not investigating them to shut them down for saying the wrong things. Only like they track Muslim extremist groups, they would track hate groups that are extremists if they are going to commit illegal activity, including violence. So that was horribly misleading. Why? Because be scared, and we're the victims. Oh my God, here at Fox News, I mean, Tucker Carlson, I don't know if he made $10 or $20 million this year for saying the hateful things that he does, but poor Tucker Carlson, he's the victim. And you better be scared, just like you are of immigrants and Muslims and black people and all the other people that we told you to be scared of. But here comes the irony now. Get a load of what he encourages at the end of this segment here, especially the very, very end. Watch.
This isn't just unethical, it is illegal. Under IRS regulations, 501c3 nonprofits are totally prohibited from participating in the campaigns of political candidates. Media Matters broke the law. The group has never been punished for this, though it is widely known. Media Matters retains its tax-exempt status. That means that you and every other taxpayer is subsidizing a tax on our own First Amendment. Why is this? How can this be happening? Maybe someone should call the IRS tomorrow morning and find out.
Gee, I wonder who that someone who might be watching Fox News might be. So after he said, can you believe that Democrats might use law enforcement to target hate groups? Oh my God, what an outrage. He turns right around and saying, President Trump, you might want to call the IRS tomorrow morning to go after my political opponents and use the force of the law, federal law, to target my political opponents. But Fox News audience is, of course, way too stupid to see that irony. They're like, oh yeah, man, Democrats are going after us, so let's make sure we use law enforcement to crush them. That'll show them. No, okay, that means you have no principles at all. So there's a tiny little violin playing for Tucker the whole time. You didn't have to treat it this way. And so if you want to have a critique of Media Matters and whether they're a political group or not, okay, have that conversation. But never, ever addressing the hateful things that you said, which actually could have, I think could have been done relatively easily, is preposterous. And look, whether you think there should be an advertiser ban or what words are so offensive that advertisers should pull out or a network should not back you anymore. Those are interesting questions and debates, and I don't think that they have super clear answers. And I think that Americans can disagree on where the line is. I think we all agree that there is a line. If Tucker went out there and started chanting, "The Jews will not replace us, blood and soil," I think we'd all agree. I don't think I want somebody advertising on that. I don't think I want a network carrying it. I hope that Tucker himself would agree with that. On the other hand, Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham have both literally used the words, again, written into the prompter, the immigrants will not replace us. So it's a tough question as to where you draw the line. But what Tucker did was not really anywhere near the line. So meaning that he didn't do the right thing here. He didn't in any way show contrition for all the terrible things that he has said, including calling people monkeys. And then on top of that, to double down and use an anti-Semitic trope. Totally unacceptable from the people who feigned outraged over Ilhan Omar's comments when she said, I do not want to do double allegiance. She didn't point it at Jewish people. In this case, Tucker literally does that while pretending not to be a bigot. Okay, now, if that wasn't good enough, wait till you see the twist. So let's go, yeah, okay. So Tucker Carlson does his non-contrition, double down counterattack on Fox News. I will not apologize for any of the things that I have said. And who is his first guest afterwards? Well, as you can see in the graphic next to me, Dave Rubin. Now, why does he bring Dave Rubin on? Well, he just did an anti-Semitic trope about how Jeff Zucker is the puppet master over Brian Stelter. Dave Rubin happens to be Jewish, check. This is Fox News 101, which is I bring on the group that I am insulting to have one of them who is paid handsomely to come out and go, oh yeah, no, you should totally insult us. It's a great idea. And in fact, he also said this. Let's go to graphic 7 in this case. He said, well, I like you too, in a radio show about 10 years ago, referring to the host at the time. You always say I mean that in a non-F way, but I actually mean it in a completely F way, referring to members of the LGBT community with the F word. And Dave Rubin also happens to be in the LGBT community. But I am sure that Dave is going to hold him to account, right? This is his opportunity. Let's find out what happened.
I'm starting to think that a lot of us overestimated the willingness of the Democratic establishment to coexist with people who disagree with them and underestimated the real threat, the actual existential threat to speech that we face now. Do you think that's right?
Well, I wish I could say that this whole situation is shocking, but this is exactly what I've been raising the alarm about on my show for the last 5 or so years. As you know, I come from the left. I was a progressive. I still consider myself a liberal in the best sense of liberalism, classical liberalism, and I believe in the individual and all of that stuff that we've talked about several times.
Why does he keep saying that? Well, I know why he keeps saying it. No, I'm a classic liberal, like it's a liberal, but it's like kind of like a moderate, but who's actually a conservative. So, but I stand for the individual. Who stands against the individual? You're just doing word salad there. So what is the point of him saying all that gobbledygook? You see that? I'm also a liberal, and reasonable liberals totally agree with Fox News. Check, that's the third one. We've got a gay Jewish liberal, so-called. He's the other two, he ain't nobody's liberal or progressive. Coming out there and go, Tucker, bravo. I mean, I've been saying this on my show the whole time. The one set of people in this country we have to protect is right-wing white men. I mean, poor Tucker Carlson. What are you making, $15 or $18 million a year? When are you ever gonna catch a break, Tucker? This is what I've been telling the American people about. You're the real victim. Okay, not done yet. This is a lot of fun. Let's keep going.
I want to address a couple things here. First, on the way that you've responded to the attacks by not apologizing. I think that was exactly the right thing to do. You know, all of us have joked.
Now, Tucker, you are absolutely right. I mean, for using an F word against gay people like that and doing the puppet master thing you just did a minute ago. You know what, here, in case you guys haven't seen the rest of the show, let me show you that too. Let's go to graphic 8. And then show you the history of that with graphic 9. So this is a segment he did a little bit earlier. And then this is Nazi propaganda from 1942 and 1944 about the Jewish puppet masters. And yes, Jeff Zucker, who was the puppet master that Tucker Carlson referred to, is Jewish. Okay, so, but Dave's on there to go, it's okay, it's totally okay. You shouldn't apologize. Guess what Dave Rubin asked for just last week? For Ilhan Omar to apologize because she was anti-Semitic. I'm gonna note that one under irony. We're gonna move on. Okay, he's not done yet. Let's see more ass kissing.
If I have wounded someone or wronged someone, I will always apologize to that person and ask for forgiveness. I do it every day. I'm not going to apologize to Media Matters or any other Soros-backed pressure group. I haven't wronged them. They've wronged me. I owe them nothing, including an apology, and I will never bow to them, period. Excuse me.
I couldn't agree
couldn't
more.
control myself.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm for apology, but not to them.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And that's, by the way, that's exactly the message that I think your audience and the average American needs to hear right now. We have watched years now of the mob coming for everybody.
I think you are exactly right. My God, I don't know anyone who's more right than you. I think you should call gay people the F word all the time. And Jews, of course, are the puppet master. You are so right, Tucker. I've been saying on my show the whole time about how right you are to denigrate all of us. Did the check clear? Did the check cleared? Okay, yes, you're still right, Tucker. You're the most right person I've ever seen in my life. And then get a load of Tucker, man. First of all, there's only two faces with Tucker. Either he bursts out laughing like that, or he seems so confused. And maybe that's what the problem is here, because I'm a little confused when you say you apologize every day, except you've never apologized. Okay, you haven't apologized today, you didn't apologize the day before. When after this story is broken, you have never clarified your words at all, when it's painfully easy to clarify your words. But you still won't do it, so where the hell's the goddamn apology? And then there's a straw man of, I will not apologize to Media Matters. No one has asked for an apology to Media Matters because you didn't use those words in connection to Media Matters. Media Matters just quoted you. You don't need to apologize to Media Matters. If you think you need an apology, which I think a lot of Americans believe you do, it should be to the gay community, Middle Easterners, whoever, all the women, all the other people that you have attacked over and over again, and with vile language on top. Okay, now you think, come on, it can't get any better than this. No, Dave has one little trick up his sleeve left, which is hilarious. Okay, get a load of the very end of this interview.
I hope your words wind up on people's refrigerators, because you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Dave Rubin, thank you. It was great to see you.
Well, I'll keep defending you, man, really. I think more people need to do it, and you have a lot of support out there. And I can tell you this, you have support in quarters of the left that you don't even know you do, and they're just afraid to speak out, and I'll keep working on those guys too.
I appreciate it.
What support from the left? And Who does Dave Rubin know on the left anymore? I'll work on those guys, my friends on the left. Really, Dave? Name one person left on the left that likes you. We'll wait. We'll wait a long, long time. I quoted one of his, I retweeted something he said because he's a hypocrite. And most of the people are like, I can't see it, Cenk. He's blocked almost everyone on the left on Twitter. He does this show where he's like, well, you know what? I'm here for an open conversation. I'll talk to anyone. I mean, if you're a Nazi, I'll talk to you. If you're Milo and you hate me, I'll talk to you. And because you hate me because I'm Jewish, but I'll talk to you and I'll promote you. If you're, Ben Shapiro and you say, that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But Ben, I mean, you'd come to my gay wedding, wouldn't you? He's like, no, not really. But you'd bake me a cake, right? He's like, nope, no, I wouldn't. Well, I love you anyway. Did the check clear? Did the check clear? Okay, the check cleared. I love you, Ben. You're right. I mean, who would bake me a cake? Come on, I don't need a cake, right? So then people on the left asked to come on, like Sam Seder, and he's like, Sam Seder, what name so? He also, I have to be fair and disclose to you guys, he was at one point part of the Young Turks network, which he's now cashed in. Like the guy from Greenpeace, who once part of Greenpeace, then he goes and sells out to the right wing and criticizes Greenpeace for the rest of the time. And right wingers use that as like, no, the guy was from Greenpeace. So Dave Rubin, he was from the Young Turks network. Okay, so hey Dave, when you were here and pretending to be a progressive, were you lying back then or are you lying now? Because your positions are completely different than they were just a couple of years ago. Wasn't that long ago. It wasn't like, hey, decades ago and you had a political transformation. Can you at least, if you did have a political transformation, can you at least tell us why, what happened, why you're a conservative now? You're still pretending to be a progressive? I'll talk to my friends on the left. I'll talk to my friends on the left. That is going to be a very lonely conversation. Okay, Dave Rubin, hilarious. And also, by the way, pathetic, allowing Tucker Carlson to cover up for all that bigotry. You must be so proud. Okay, Hannah's theory was that he seemed like he needed some sleep because maybe his conscience will get to him if he has one. All right, anyway, now let me move on to a totally different topic. Oh, we got a new told you. Well, this is fun. I'm wearing a tie. When did that happen? Okay, so so for a while I've been telling you guys that Bernie Sanders is so loathed by the establishment in Washington, D.C. that they might rather prefer a Republican. In fact, I think the Democratic establishment thinks that way as well. Anyway, you're gonna see that clip in a second. That's why we're doing the Told You segment. So what happens on Morning Joe now? Let's find out. First of all, 2 parts. First, Morning Joe is going to talk about socialism, totally unacceptable. Capitalism is the way to go. And as usual with all TV pundits, he has channeled the will of the entire American people. He knows. Is it based on any polling? No, but he knows. Let's watch.
My God, if you're afraid to say you're a capitalist in America, I'm just going to tell you, people on the left tweeting today may not like it. Let me let you in on a little secret. If that is a crisis for your party, you're going to lose in 2020. Just, you know what, pull up the stakes on the tent and just pack her up. The party's over.
No, he knows, man. The Iraq war is going to be great, and Donald Trump will never be president. And you know what? If you're not a diehard capitalist, the American people will not vote for you. I've never been right on this program, but it is totally irrelevant. I will keep saying this as if I speak for the American people.
Okay, so we're used to that. That's Morning Joe. Now, the reason we're doing this segment is Donnie Deutsch. So he gonna come in now. Okay, hold on. First, let me show you what I said earlier in the week. And if you're a Young Turks viewer, you've seen me say this dozens of times. But it was just this week that I said this. And this is why I tell you from time to time on the show that they would, the Democratic establishment would and is going to fight a progressive candidate like Bernie Sanders harder than they fight Republicans or even Donald Trump. Why? If a Democrat like Hillary Clinton wins, they're in hog heaven. Everybody's getting contracts, all the lobbyists are getting rich, the consultants are getting rich, everybody's getting rich. Trump wins, they get rich anyway. But if Bernie Sanders wins or a socialist wins, they don't get rich. So look, Morning Joe, as I've also told you dozens of times, is the epicenter of the establishment. So they love the Democratic establishment. They also love the Republican establishment. So they don't like any outsiders. They don't like Donald Trump because people have decided he's a bridge too far. That is true. But they definitely do not like anyone on the left who's an outsider either. So this is the establishment speaking. But you're gonna love two parts of this. One is what Donnie Deutsch said. That's and then number two is the mid-correction. Look at the establishment correct itself in the middle. I'll explain why in a second, but watch.
Joe, I'm going to take it one step further because this is how dangerous socialism. I find Donald Trump reprehensible as a human being, but a socialist candidate is more dangerous to this country as far as the strength and well-being of our country than Donald Trump. I would vote for Donald Trump, a despicable human being.
No, you won't.
Let me tell you
Stop
something.
yourself.
Let me correct myself. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. You always help myself.
You will never vote for a bigot, a guy that's made bigoted statements for the past 3 years.
Joe, thank you for correcting me. I stand corrected that. I will be so distraught to the point that could even come out of my mouth if we have a socialist, because that will take our country so down.
Told you. Of course, they'd rather vote for a Republican for sure. And are you kidding me? They're gonna vote for Trump over Bernie Sanders. You think Donnie Deutsch is not gonna go into that voting booth and vote for Donald Trump when his money's on the line? Taxing me 1% more. No way I'm voting. I mean, Trump's a terrible, bigoted person. But I mean, we're talking about 1 or 2% of my taxes. No, I'm voting for Trump. He's gonna vote for, he just told you he was gonna vote for him. So why did he change his mind? That was the funniest part. Hey, Donnie, remember who's in charge, okay? The establishment is also against Donald Trump. And we are pretending that we are not going to support him. Now, they don't actually support him, don't get me wrong. Would they over a socialist? Well, Donnie just told you. He was about to tell you that he was going to. And Scarborough's like, remember the party line. Remember the party line. We're not going to do that because Trump is a bigot and a bigger problem, right? In other words, Donnie, if you say that, you might get fired at MSNBC because there is a party line. So I'm your friend, I'm trying to help you out. So Donnie's like, oh, thank you, Joe. I love how he got upbraided and like a little child. He was like, oh, no, you're right. I want to keep this job. The whole point is to keep the money. Yeah. Trump's a bigot, terrible. I mean, the tax cuts were good, terrible. But socialism, it would destroy this company. That was a hilarious Freudian slip. Did you see it? In the middle of that video, he's like, it would hurt this country. Indeed. See, that's the establishment. They love the status quo. They love redistributing the wealth to the top. And they are more scared of progressive candidates like Bernie Sanders than they are of the most despicable Republicans, because it's all about the greed. Okay, we got to take a break. We got a great host coming up for you guys. Adrian Lawrence and Francesca Fiorentini are going to join me later. Brooke Thomas and Hassan Piker, speaking of socialists. Okay, so lots of great topics for you guys.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
Right back. All right, back on the Young Turks. Look at this. All my writer friends have joined me. Francesca Fiorentini, Adrian Lawrence, How often do you get "Yo, Adrian"?
Actually, not very often. Yeah, it's
interesting.
not too bad.
Okay, well, I'm gonna then pick it up. Oh boy. So look forward to more of that. All right. So speaking of looking forward to things, Bernie rallies are getting covered on Facebook.com/RebelHQ. That is one of our top channels, of course. So he's in South Carolina. That is going to be 7 o'clock Eastern on Thursday. That's tomorrow night. So check it out at Facebook.com/RebelHQ. And also, if you are a journalism student, make sure that you redeem Young Turks membership. You guys have a free one, thanks to our audience, at student@tyt.com. All right, now I've got some great comments from you guys about Tucker Carlson and other things. First, member section. Squishy Bish writes in, so excited to be a member as of last week. Rock on, guys, been watching for 10 years. Wow. Thank you, Squishy, and welcome. Okay, tyt.com/join to become a member. Meg says, told you segments are some of my favorites.
Yes, they are good.
Wow. Me too, me too. It's a shame Anna missed it though. And then Viscous Cree says, why are Tucker Carlson and the whites so afraid of being a minority group? Do minorities get treated badly or something?
No, of course not.
Oh, great point, great point. Why, what would be wrong with being a minority? I mean, you guys tell us that it's super fair in America, right? So I guess it should be no problem. Great point. I love our members. I love our members. Okay, last two ones. One from Twitter is Joe Oliver 44 says, when you bring out Rubin to defend you, you've lost at life.
Yeah.
And then on YouTube Super Chat, Wilhelm Rupenshire says, Cenk nailed it. Rubin is always saying that the left won't debate us. I got blocked by Dave Rubin for asking him why he won't debate Sam Cedar. It was literally half the comments I got on that tweet was like, wait, what did he say? What did he say? We're all blocked. I'll debate anyone. I'll listen to anyone. You're all blocked. You're all blocked. I mean, doesn't get any more ironic than that. All right, Francesca, you got the next story for us.
Well, Fox News is trying out a new slogan. It is no longer most watched, most trusted, which replaced fair and balanced. It is now incendiary and hypocritical? No, it is America is watching. That's right. And if that sounds like Big Brother is watching, it's absolutely not, because that would mean that the media and the government are one and the same, which is basically totalitarianism. And I think that's what we're dealing with right here. This new slogan comes off the heels of a bunch of advertisers jumping ship on the network after comments from some of its hosts, like Janine, hijabs are un-American Piro, and Laura, detention centers are like summer camps Ingram, and of course Tucker, Iraqis are monkeys Carlson. Advertisers that have so far pulled their ads from Fox include pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca, Takeda pharmaceutical company, Career Builder, TD Ameritrade, Just for Men, Outback Steakhouse, and Peloton. Pressure is also mounting on Carlson's remaining advertisers, including Mitsubishi and Allstate Insurance, to follow 33 others that have cut ties with the host since December, when he told viewers that immigrants make the country poorer and dirtier. So, will the rebrand save Fox? Panel.
Okay, so I'm amused that he even lost an advertiser called Just for Men.
Yeah.
You would have thought that one would have hung in there.
I'm surprised you even had an advertiser called Just for Men.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised the show's not called Just for Men.
Yeah, exactly, the new slogan is Just for Men. Fox News should just try out Just for Men, just for white, straight men.
Yeah.
And Dave Rubin.
And Dave Rubin. So no, I like the truth in advertising though in the new slogan. Okay, because one of my main problems with Fox News was that they mislabeled themselves. You know, so right now they're doing a lot of victimhood, like, oh my God, poor us, we only make billions of dollars and we're so oppressed and stuff like that. When will we ever catch a break when we make trillions of dollars? So, and this hate's selling so well, but poor us. Anyway, but I think that you get to say all that stuff, and so you certainly get to say it as an American citizen, and I think that you get to say most of it. We'll talk about where the line is in a second on television, but when you say you're fair and balanced, I mean, who are you kidding? I mean, that was such a joke, and that was done for propaganda reasons.
Right.
And Roger Ailes knew that, and he talked about it, and he wrote memos to Richard Nixon back in the day when he was a political operative before he ran Fox News, saying we got to take control over TV, and we got to put our Republican ideas and inject it into TV, so it seems like news. That's why they called it fair and balanced. So they got rid of that, which I actually gave them a lot of credit for, because that was one of my top issues with Fox News. The thing that they didn't get rid of is news in their name. And that's not exactly what they're doing. But now at least there's a little bit of honesty, like America's watching.
But my God, what is America watching? I hope they're not watching Fox News, but it's one of those things where you just wonder, what is Fox News going to try next? And the thing is, like, the Disney deal comes down with them acquiring Fox. I think the March 20 is the date, and so the news portion will stay with Fox. And they're going to have to differentiate themselves, but also they're going to have to be able to sustain stock value and continue to generate income, especially when they separate from all these assets. And so I appreciate this new effort, but I really don't know how far it's going to go.
I like the reference to them as assets.
They're assets.
Yeah.
No, but America's Watching is super like low-key racist. Let's be honest. I mean, I see it as that because it's like. America is watching, whereas like Pakistan is watching or Somalia is watching MSNBC. You know what I mean? It's like someone like other countries, which somehow, we don't have immigrants from those countries here. They're not Americans. America is watching this. And I think it's low-key saying white America is watching Fox, whereas if you identify with any other ethnic group or country, or you're from anywhere else, but you've moved here and you're a citizen, no. You're watching something else for the brown people.
I have to confess, Francesca, that I had not thought of that.
I didn't either.
Yeah, and because I was thinking like, I guess they're bragging about that they're highly rated, which is true, right? But Adrian's right. I mean, all of the cable news operations and all of cable are not watched by that many people. At their height, Fox News gets about 3 million people an hour, which is a big number, but it's less than 1% of the country. So it's not like all of America is watching. At best, 1% of America is watching. But as long as any Americans are watching, anybody can claim America is watching. America is watching CNN or Lifetime or whatever, right? So it's kind of a weird thing. Now it kind of makes sense. Like the real America is watching us.
That's right. Yep.
Right? And so, okay, but that actually is gonna go towards my standards for what should get you kicked off of TV or not in a second. But first, I wanna show you a video. Our own Emma Vigeland went down to cover a protest in front of Fox News that happened earlier today. So they were protesting Jeanine Pirro's comments and Tucker Carlson's comments. So let's watch to see what they were upset about.
We have no expectation of Fox to do anything. We don't expect them to do the right thing. But what we do expect is that advertisers will respond to the bottom line, which is money. And what we're saying is that Fox is bad for business. And in particular, women are actually huge economic drivers. Women are the targets of a lot of advertisements, actually. And frankly, if you want women to buy your products, you can't advertise on Fox News. And that's the message we're sending.
Okay, so you can watch the whole video, by the way, at youtube.com/rebelhq or facebook.com/rebelhq, and we'll have the link down below if you're watching this later. Now, guys, let's talk about what's out of bounds and not. I think I could even get most of the MAGA guys to agree with some of the things that are out of bounds, although you never know. I think, but certainly a huge percentage of the country would agree that if you do something illegal, that's a problem. And some things that you say are also illegal, which leads us to number 2, which is direct incitement of violence. If Tucker Carlson or anyone were to come out and go, hey, you know what? I don't like Senator XYZ. Why doesn't somebody go hurt him, right? That's obviously illegal. You can't do that. Can't do direct incitement of violence. I would hope that you wouldn't do indirect incitement of violence. And the more indirect you get, the closer to the line you get, the more direct you get, the more it is obvious that you shouldn't be on TV. The network shouldn't support that, advertisers shouldn't support that. But I'm talking about things that are clearly out of bounds, and we'll get to the line in a sec. So then I think it's also super obvious that some hate words are out of bounds. Now that's where the right wing's gonna get triggered and go, no, I love my hate words, and you guys are doing oppression, and you're Big Brother, and all that stuff. No, I wanna be clear, okay? So can we agree that if Tucker Carlson came out, or any of them, or anybody came out and started chanting, the Jews will not replace us, that would be unacceptable? I hope we can agree to that. if he said blood and soil, which is a Nazi chant, would that do it? Or do you think, no, that's good. Yeah, we should have Fox News on, right? Have him on television. So my point is, there is language extreme enough for people to say, no, we're not going to put that on TV.
Right. Yeah.
And this is not the government. The parent company has all the right in the world to choose who they have on TV, and we can't do that. So now, I think the interesting part comes in, and we might all disagree here, and everybody in the audience can disagree on where they would draw the line. Is I would say, in order for us to have enough leeway to have interesting conversations, that we should not have advertiser boycotts of things that are indirectly offensive. So, for example, America is watching. I see what you're saying about the racial undertone there, but would I say that's good enough for an advertiser boycott? No, I wouldn't, right? And so, but then it gets really hard. So Tucker Carlson said immigrants are dirty. That's racial. I think it's abhorrent. I think it's things that have been used to keep people down for a long time. It triggers conservatives because they are more easily triggered by the fear and disgust, those two emotions. And the dirty is a word that has been used in the past, etc. But I think it falls below the line. And so I think that's where the interesting conversation is. Yeah.
There's two questions. Right? One for me is like, okay, business. Is it good for business, bad for business? A protester out there saying it's bad for business, and they're encouraging companies to pull their ads. And I think that's a legitimate, nonviolent, tactic to boycott and also to protest Fox News, which consistently flirts with that line. Pirro saying that Ilhan Omar wearing hijab suggests that she's un-American, that she has loyalty somewhere else, right? Essentially calling her a terrorist, really, or saying that if you're Muslim, you can't be, loyal to the United States. But she's also word for word said, "Get a gun." Get a gun, told her entire audience, get a gun, protect yourself, because Sharia law is coming for you. Jeanine Pirro has been on the Sharia law train for a very, very long time. I would say that is out of bounds. If I were a business owner, like a Botox company that pulled ads from her, which is like when Jeanine Pirro was losing the soccer mom companies like for Botox, there's a problem. But that's one, right? That's private. Then to me, it's like, well, where does the FCC come down? Because when I saw Jeanine Pirro say, get a gun, because Sharia law is coming for you, well, that is an incitement to violence, I think, and also factually incorrect. Sharia law is not coming for you. Where? And people like in Portland, Oregon, right? There have been crazies and people who've shot and what was it? The incident on the train, right? People who believe in Sharia law, who wield guns, who openly carry. So where does the FCC step in? Where does the government step in? Where can we say this is the line and you can't cross it?
What they do essentially is they leave it to the citizens as their own to actually sue, to say, hey, you participated in inciting violence. And I believe Trump is actually facing a lawsuit in the same regard for things he said at his rallies where people actually got hurt. By essentially saying you're playing a role in inciting violence. You can't just scream fire in a crowded room and when people get trampled say, Right. It's really an unfortunate thing because you do have the government performing some regulation factors, but they do leave a significant amount of that up to individual citizens to fight for their rights. The problem is we as minorities and women, we tend to be oppressed the most and have to fight the most, and we have the least resources to do that. So essentially, we're left hung out to dry.
Yeah. So look, as outrageous as some of the things that they say, and I picked the immigrant example because I'm an immigrant, so if anyone should be offended, it's me, and I am offended by it, but I don't think that means that he should be kicked off the air. I also don't think that advertisers should boycott him for that. And so why do I say that? Because then we'll have fairly insipid speech, because then it gets too narrowed down to what advertisers will accept. Yes. Because advertisers don't want you to do interesting shows. They want you to do boring shows.
But where's the accountability, Cenk? What do you this is, again, I make fun of Fox, but they are they are the most watched cable news network. And yeah, that 1% of people who watch Fox, like we have to remember that they're outside of actually the core demographic of like 25 to 54-year-olds. They're old, like they are only in their lazy boy chair watching the news.
Because those are the people who still have cable.
And those are the people who
part of
still
me is
have
like, you
cable.
flexing on the fact that, we're the #1 8-track, artist. It's like, yeah, okay, so who's really doing that?
But I do think that and so if Just for Men wants to advertise to 25 to 54-year-olds, which they do, and they're like, this is not on our brand, or if they want to, advertise to the LGBTQ community, and you're like, you are hurting our brand when you, speak against this community. Doesn't look good on us. So like, my question is just, who's going to hold them accountable? Is it we're just going to wait on ratings and everyone to evolve, or can we say
have to do it at the stores? And who we're going to continue to buy and whose pockets we're going to continue to fill, because that's how we end up kind of creating this cycle, and it ends up hurting Fox or taking away sponsors. And I'm a huge fan of the boycott.
Yeah.
Like capitalism, let it do its job. If people don't like the way you
believe
do
in the
your
free
business,
market,
that's right. Let's get this done.
Yeah. No, look, I disagree a little bit, and I'm a little biased because I'm a talk show host. Okay, let's just keep it real. Okay, so I'm just putting that out there. So fairly obvious from the surroundings, but
you don't incite violence.
No, of course not. But that's why I've been citing violence as above the line, or below the line.
But Fox News flirts so perfectly with that line all the time.
I know, but Francesca, you have a Second Amendment right to a gun, and nobody's for gun control more than I am. Like they do flirt with it, but saying go get a gun, and then a half a sentence later saying, hey, Sharia law is coming for you is absurd. I know it's going towards that conclusion, but it is not saying go shoot Muslims. And that's what Fox flirts with. And the thing is, if people want to sell, look, a significant percentage of this country is right wing. And I'll go further, a significant percentage of this country is racist.
Yeah, it is.
And so if you want to sell to that demographic, have at it, Hoss. So I think that's up to them. And so anyway, last thing is, I think one thing that is also clearly okay is there's this policing of civility by the mainstream media. And so Tucker in his rant, which was 98% wrong, the only part that I agreed with is, I don't care what Brian Stelter or anyone else thinks is civil or not civil. It's usually a way of protecting the status quo, to say, hey, everybody simmer down. Okay, and it is also often used against the left. Oh, Black Lives Matter, you seem a little too upset.
Sure.
Let's all be civil. And the most important thing is to be civil to the elite, right? So no, I do not agree to that. So, and oftentimes people conflate things like, oh, Alex Jones is a madman because he screams. No, Alex Jones is a madman because he believes in crazy things and definitely directly incites violence, where he says God hates them and somebody should do something about it and we're gonna crush them, et cetera, et cetera. So, the incitement of violence is the problem, not being quote unquote uncivil. So otherwise, we'll have no interesting programming at all. All we'll have is vanilla stuff that the establishment agreed to. Okay, all right, so interesting conversation, love it. We gotta take a quick break here, guys. We got more where that came from, including down goes Manafort, but did he go down enough? We'll find out. At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your active ID more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right. right, back on the Young Turks. Cenk, Francesca, and Adrian with you guys. So let's read a couple of comments for you. Kamala Harris is a cop, writes in. That's the handle.
Not
There's nothing
wrong.
I can do about it.
Not wrong.
Okay, new Fox slogan. Fox, we're on the white side of history. Okay.
Not about white.
Yeah, well, it's just, hey, look, we're clear, right? We're home of progressives. We don't hide the ball. Fox should be equally clear, right? And we did a campaign called Being on the Left Side of History, and they could do one on the white side of history. All right, Francesca writes in, although spelled differently. I'm so proud to phonetically share a name with Francesca Fiorentini. Her nickname of the Fox News host was amazingly clever, indeed.
It was.
Okay. Now I'm gonna go to Twitter for a second. Mi Papito writes in, I'm kind of tired of protecting and being fair to bigots and racists and sexists and just straight up bad people. But Omega Rez in the member section says, I disagree that hate words should not be allowed. People should be able to say things that show their true personality. We need to know who really hates us.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is nice.
And then finally, something we could all agree on Twitter, Izumi Ashura writes in, the racists watch Fox, the rest of the world watches TYT.
Yeah.
Very nice of you. All right, we got a lot more show coming up for you guys throughout the day. We've got interviews, including the son of the founder of National Enquirer. We've got a post game, and we've got old school later tonight. So tyt.com/join to become a member. Okay, Adrian, you're up next.
All right. Well, I'm sure you may have heard today, but they were doling out some L's in D.C. at the D.C. District Court. Paul Manafort, President Trump's former campaign chairman, well, he got his second federal prison sentence in the last 2 weeks. And this one was courtesy of Judge Amy Berman Jackson, who really wasn't here for Manafort's repeated, I'm so sorry, very apologetic, asking for some leniency. He's 69 years old. He said prison is hard. Well, Judge Jackson, she wasn't for it at all. Let's check out some of her comments. She says, this defendant, talking about Manafort, is not public enemy number one, but he's not a victim either. The defendant's insistence that none of this should be happening to him, that the prosecution is misguided and excessive and invalid, is just one more thing that is inconsistent with a genuine acceptance of responsibility. And, well, she helped him become a little bit more responsible for his decades worth of campaign for lobbying crimes, as well as obstruction of justice and other financial crimes. And she doled him out 43 more months, adding on to his 47-month sentence that he got a few weeks ago. And that puts Manafort in for 7.5 years in federal prison. He's also gonna have to pay a $6.16 million fine. But then, New York, well, the Big Apple wanted to take a bite out of Manafort. Within an hour of him getting his federal sentence, they issued him a 16-count indictment. Check out these crimes. Woo! Residential mortgage fraud. 3 counts of that: attempted mortgage fraud, account conspiracy, falsifying business records, scheme of fraud to defraud. This man, he just cannot not lie or commit crimes, apparently. And, well, the New York City DA is going to give him a free tour of Rikers Island. And this is what he said. The DA said, following an investigation commenced by our office in March 2017, a Manhattan grand jury has charged Mr. Manafort with state criminal violations which strike at the heart of New York's sovereign interests, including the integrity of our residential mortgage market. No one is beyond the law in New York. And they aren't indeed, and I happened to look it up, and it looks like Manafort's facing anywhere from 13.5 years to 138 years in state prison. Do you all think that these L's are decent enough for Manafort?
Okay, so let's break it down. First of all, let me translate the Manhattan District Attorney's comments for you. He's saying, yeah, the president can't pardon on state charges. So this is our insurance policy. So if Trump pardons Manafort for keeping the real crimes that they did together secret, it doesn't matter because we're gonna come get you. That's 16 counts on, you're in a world of trouble no matter what Trump does. Today, Lindsey Graham said that it would be politically disastrous for Trump to pardon him, but Trump has hinted at that all throughout, which leads us back to the original case here. So Justice Jackson in this case, I don't think was as egregious as T.S. Ellis III, who was a very right-wing judge who just a little while ago gave him a lenient sentence and said, well, he's lived an otherwise blameless life.
Seriously.
Okay, I mean, he was a foreign agent for another government and did not tell us. He hid $50 million worth of taxes, worth of income, which would be tens of millions of dollars in taxes that he robbed from the American people. And there was many other counts, right? Well, okay, so if someone robbed a bank for about $15 million, you'd be like, well, I mean, before he stole the $15 million, he lived an otherwise blameless life. And besides which, we don't know that at all.
Exactly, just because you haven't been caught doesn't mean that you weren't doing all of this criminality and misconduct. It's just, it's ridiculous what this judge did.
And Adrian, that goes to one part of why they thought they should get a lenient sentence this time around. His lawyer said, but for a short stint as a campaign manager in a presidential election, I don't think we would be here today. I think the court should consider that too. In other words, if we weren't briefly Trump's campaign manager, we never would have gotten caught. Okay, that's not really a defense, okay? But Your Honor, I almost got away with it. It's not great defense.
But Your Honor, no one thought he was going to win, okay? Even he didn't think he was going to win. I love, actually, it's so funny that everyone who working for the Trump administration were like, what do you mean? We knew we were gonna win. Like, no, you didn't. And everything you've done up until this point shows that you didn't think you were gonna win and you thought you were gonna get away with all of this. I just wanna know, is there gonna be ostrich feathered jumpsuits in prison?
I doubt it. I heard Rikers has pretty good food. The applesauce is pretty strong.
There you go.
Maybe that.
Yeah, and so let's keep breaking down this like blameless life otherwise and poor Manafort. So I believe that Justice Amy Berman Jackson here is acting in good faith and good intent and has shown that in the other ways that she has handled this case and others. So I'm saying that with the context of her record, okay? Now, having said that, I still think she's wrong. I think the sentence was still too lenient. She said the federal minimum guidelines were excessive. No, they weren't. Why are they never excessive when it comes to minorities and poor Americans and middle-class Americans? But as soon as you see a guy in an ostrich jacket, all of a sudden, well, they're there, but for the grace of God goes I, right? Or someone I know.
Suddenly he has a family. Like,
yeah.
I'm so interested. Like, how many nonviolent drug offenses? Like, how many, defense attorneys are like, how often is it presented to a jury that like, hey, this guy or this woman, they have a family, like,
but it's really important for the judiciary to make sure that they communicate that white men are still subject to a different justice system. And in the event that she were to give him, that full maximum, then it may undermine that whole principle that America's founded on. And that's not something we can do.
I was wondering where you were going with that. Okay, so, especially rich white men. So let's keep breaking it down because to Francesca's point, well, just a couple of years back, a guy got a life sentence for a joint. Now they say, well, but we had busted him on other drug charges earlier. So you smoke 3 joints, and in some places in America, you can get a life sentence. But what are we supposed to give Manafort credit for stealing the $15 million at once? Right? And again, we don't even know that that's true. And in fact, we do know he got those payments throughout different years. So you could count it as multiple counts. If you did that, he should be serving a life sentence.
That's right.
And I would argue stealing $15 million from the American taxpayers is far more egregious than smoking a joint. Yep. But yet there are people, and usually minorities, but definitely poor, that are in jail forever for their life for that. A woman recently, and you're gonna be shocked to find out she was African American, got 5 years for accidentally voting twice. And no one really charges that it was anything but an accident. But they're like, but hey, look, we're gonna come down on voter fraud. So you're going to prison for 5 years, okay? Both of these judges, now these are 2 different cases. A Virginia case.
Did she vote Republican?
You're gonna be shocked to find out that it was not likely the case. Okay, so both of these judges gave him less than 4 years.
Yep.
For different counts, different crimes, right? The New York case is a 3rd case, also different counts, different crimes. So you accidentally vote twice, you get 5 years if you're poor and African American. But if you're rich, you get less than 4 years for massive crimes.
But he's 69 and he has gout.
Yeah, what is gout? I didn't know people got gout anymore. That's like saying you have scurvy. Like what? Are we discovering the new world here? Like what is going on?
People do have gout, to be fair.
Okay, yeah, but like,
but you see, that's exactly what my point, though, Francesca. Exactly. So he kept saying like, I have a family. Actually, he just has a wife. So usually they love to hide behind their kids.
Yes.
But he's like, my wife is 66 and I have to take care of her. Dude, she's not 86 or 96, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and so what? The woman who got busted on the double voting, she has a family too.
That's right.
But when it comes to her, we don't give a damn about her family. The guy who had to join, he had a family. Nobody gave a damn about his family. We weren't having long conversations about, but hey, dude, that smoked a joint, do you have gout? You know, what do you have? Do you have upset stomach, right?
Yeah.
How about your kids and your grandkids or your uncles or your aunts? We're never having that conversation when it's poor people.
But he's reached new self-awareness,
Yes, he did.
Cenk, in prison. He says he's reached new quote unquote self-awareness that like he can just not wear orange. You know, like it just doesn't work with his hair and just the white. He wants to be a silver fox, and you can't be a silver fox in Rikers. I think the whole thing with this, right, is that he wasn't sentenced to around collusion charges, right? No collusion, which is what his lawyers came out and said when he got the first 4 years, right?
Yes.
No collusion. Well, this wasn't about Russian collusion, and these most recent the convictions and the sentence wasn't about collusion either. However, they are about money laundering, and they are about laundering money. Using more real estate here in the United States and receiving up to $50 million from a pro-Russian oligarch, basically to advocate on behalf of pro-Russian Ukrainian interests from a Russian oligarch. So like, it's not related.
Yeah.
But it isn't a collusion conviction or a sentence. But to say that it's completely unrelated would also be untrue. So I'm interested to see how this is going to continue to play out as the Mueller investigation, whenever we get it.
Yeah, we'll get it around 2020.
Okay, so last couple of things on what Francesca said. So the judge said the same thing. He's like, why are you bringing up the no collusion with the Russians in the campaign? That's not what this case is about. And you know why they're bringing it up.
Pardon happy.
Because they're saying, Mr. President, if you'd like to pardon us, we keep telling them there's no collusion, wink, wink, right? But wait, this has nothing to do with this case, right? So that's obviously why, and she's, she's upbraiding them for that, but who cares? Look, he could have gotten 10 years, and they say, well, he did cooperate. No, he didn't. He cooperated in the beginning, and then he lied to them while cooperating. That means you throw the book at him. That means he gets the maximum.
Right.
So he showed no remorse at all. In the Judge Ellis case, he didn't even apologize. So now finally he apologizes, but after, he's now in front of a non-friendly judge. He got caught lying. He got caught tampering with witnesses. That's exactly when you get the maximum, not the minimum. So it's definitely a miscarriage of justice. And finally, they brought him in a wheelchair. And he said, oh my God. Yeah, when he's out and about, right? When he had all the money and he didn't, report it, and he's working as a foreign agent and betraying the country, et cetera, he's got ostrich jackets.
Yep.
And walking around like a peacock, if you will, mixing birds here, right? Like, oh yeah, look at my great suit. I'm great, I'm in charge, right? And then when he gets caught, all of a sudden, oh, I'm in a wheelchair. Oh, I got a 66-year-old wife. I got a wheelchair. Oh, somebody have sympathy for me. No, zero sympathy. You did the crime, you should do the time. You should have done a hell of a lot more time than this. And if Trump in his infinite corruption pardons you, then New York State's coming for you anyway, and they should throw a bigger sentence if you get convicted at you at the state level. And by the way, if Trump pardons him, even though Manafort's charges didn't have to do with Trump, that shows you for a fact that Trump and Manafort are hiding something that did have something to do with Trump. Yes. Otherwise, he'd have no reason to pardon Manafort at all. Right. In other words, good job in keeping the real crimes away from them. You thought this stuff was bad. Wait till you see what Manafort's got on Trump. That's why Trump keeps tweeting like, oh yeah, Manafort's a good guy. Right. Oh, so sad what happened to Manafort. Yep. What a good guy. Are you kidding me? If Manafort and Trump did not do something illegal together, and then it turns out Manafort was doing something separate illegal, like in this case, and Trump found out, and then it's now Trump is being blamed for it? Do you have any idea how quickly Trump would throw Manafort under the bus?
That's right.
He'd be like, this son of a bitch, I didn't know. He betrayed me, this loser son, baby, terrible, I can't believe it, right? So what is Manafort still hiding today? That's an important question. All right, look guys, we're so good. Let's do one more story. Okay,
all right,
let's do ICE.
really quick. Well, we know that Facebook has been down today, but do not worry. There are other entities that are still stealing your data and information. And this one is courtesy of ICE. What they are using is a surveillance program, kind of they're part of this wonderful database that local law enforcement contributes to. And they're able to screen your license plate, gather your information to kind of just build this wonderful database about your ongoings and get your information. And this is kind of a big deal because you'll notice that ICE, they're able to collect on average 150 to 200 million license plates a month. And this is in 50 of the US's largest cities. Also, there are more than 9,000 ICE agents with access to this database. This is absolutely surreal because they're using this to target immigrants unfairly and in some cases illegally. The ACLU provided us with this information following a FOIA request, and the staff attorney who had sued to get this information, well, she said, the public has a right to know when a government agency, especially an immoral and rogue agency such as ICE, is exploiting a mass surveillance database that is a threat to the privacy and safety of drivers across the United States. The government should not have unfettered access to information that reveals where we live, where we work, and our private habits. So, you guys, what do you think about this whole collection and detailed roadmaps of our ongoings that pretty much accumulate 60% of the population's information?
Yeah, I mean, look, guys, if you're worried about Big Brother, whether you're on the left or the right claims they're worried about Big Brother and big government looking in on your private lives. They're secretly recording the license plate of all of us, or at least the ones that are in the jurisdictions that are affected. They're not just recording the license plate of immigrants or undocumented immigrants. The camera doesn't know if you're an immigrant or not, and it knows everywhere you've gone. So it knows your house, it knows your work, and it knows every other place you've gone. So they say, oh no, don't worry, we're gonna only use it for very important criminal cases. That's what they said in the beginning, and we're only gonna use it at the local level. Now it turns out, no, they're not just using it at the local level, they're using it at the federal level. And it turns out it's not just for really important crimes, it's also to track down undocumented immigrants or people they think might be undocumented immigrants. So Big Brother grows and grows and grows.
Right, and I think that's something to remember. I mean, I'm old enough to remember 9/11 and all DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and ICE. These were things that were set up in the wake of 9/11. For those of you who didn't have the privilege of living in a completely militarized America, these were entities set up after 9/11 in order to supposedly keep us safe. But what they did was expand the surveillance state. And activists then, as they are now, ACLU then, as they still do now, were raising the alarm bells about that, saying not only is this targeting specifically people of color, Muslim Americans, immigrant Americans, but also all people. And I would argue that DHS and ICE are doing exactly what they were designed to do. And that is why I agree with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and many other politicians and people who say that we need to shut down ICE. ICE needs to go. It is not effective. Even ICE says it needs to go. Like, even they have reported to DHS and to Kristen Nielsen, whatever her name is, that essentially they're not able to do their real job, which should be to focus on if there are dangerous immigrants, if there are actual criminals, not grandmothers who've overstayed their visas, that we should focus on them. So, I just think that we need to, again, if you're on the left or the right, like Cenk is saying, absolutely focusing on the fact that we can replace these institutions with something that doesn't tread on the civil liberties of all people and keep us safe, right? I also think that if you work in tech, remember, your company probably has a DHS contract. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Salesforce, Palantir, right? And Amazon Web Series are some of the biggest companies that have DHS contracts. And back to this whole, whether boycott is good or not, I absolutely think it is not. It reflects poorly on these companies that they have DHS contracts. This particular software is this database is being run by Vigilant Solutions, which just sounds ominous.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But remembering that like the tech the tech side of this should not be lost on any American, that, we have a responsibility to hold them accountable as well.
And the good thing is there are states that are holding people accountable in terms of creating sanctuary laws that say that their local law enforcement cannot contribute and share information to databases like Vigilant, which is good, but that's only about 7 states, one being California. And so the rest of the states and US territories, they are often plugging into this database and dumping information in on all of us. And so we're all vulnerable and exposed. So this is something you might want to push local legislature for, to kind of, block these laws so, old Bob, who's the sheriff, is not turning over your data.
Yeah, and it turns out some cities in California cooperated with ICE when they weren't supposed to anyway. Yeah. And so let me read one last thing here. It backs up what Francesca was saying. I'm going to quote TechCrunch. Last year, 19 of the top 90 top ICE investigators, so 19 of the top ICE investigators that investigate serious criminal cases like drug smuggling and sex trafficking rings, called on the government to distance their work from ICE's Enforcement and Removal Operations Unit, which investigates immigration violations and handles deportations.
Right.
So basically what they're saying is, look, ICE was supposed to track down serious crimes.
Yeah.
So now we're doing this extraneous work, and work that is like basically making our job harder, because then people don't trust us and they won't work with us and they won't give us information, so we can't solve real crimes. So that would be an argument by top ICE officials to, in essence, abolish the thing known as ICE now. It doesn't mean that you stop doing those things. It means that you might stop doing some of them. You keep the part that is about investigating serious crimes. You could rename the group, you could do whatever you want, but even the top ICE officials are saying, I don't want to be in the same room as those guys, because they're hurting our ability to fight crime.
Absolutely.
Okay, we got to take a break here. We got lots of stories left for you guys, including a hilarious story of a right-wing trap for liberals that went awry. You're gonna love that. And we got new hosts coming in too. Adrian, Francesca, thank you. Everybody check out the Bituation Room.
The Bituation Room.
Yes.
Okay, that's Francesca's podcast. All right, we'll be right back. Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.